Besides secrets, though, it's no secret about UCLA. UCLA, we just finished talking about them, about how they nearly lost to South Alabama. But they didn't, know. They did indeed not lose to South Alabama. They will be playing against another Sun Belt opponent, though. And that Sun Belt opponent this year is Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina will be making the trip all the way across the beautiful United States, and they will be taking on UCLA in LA, in Pasadena, California, a little bit more accurately. Two really good teams, both teams finishing with 9 wins last year. Coastal Carolina, however, does have a brand new coach, Tim Beck. And Tim Beck's going to have a task. Here's the thing with Coastal Carolina. They got to get that defense taken care of. It has to be taken care of. There's no secret that this defense did have its fair share of struggles last year. And UCLA, you could say, it certainly also had its fair share of struggles on the defensive side of football. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Keys of the game here between Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers, by the way, what a heck of a team name. And the UCLA Bruins. UCLA listed as a 14.5-point favorite, according to Vegas, as of Thursday night. Well, the Any Given Saturday Power Model has UCLA minus 29.5. So, Power Model, really high on UCLA, but has a lot of preseason data, though. We do have to keep that in mind as well. So, what do we got going on in terms of keys of this particular game between Coastal Carolina and UCLA? So, we know that UCLA can have those big explosive plays, and even though they're going to have a new quarterback, DTR, now with the Cleveland Browns, they got a true freshman at quarterback, Dante Moore. He's an X factor for this team. He could be really something here for UCLA this upcoming season. So to counteract that specific game. So what do we got going on? So for Coastal Carolina to stay in this game, what do they got to do? What do they got to do in order to get the job done? We know about their quarterback. Their quarterback's pretty darn good. Grayson McCall, who did answer the transfer portal, if you guys haven't noticed, but chose to come back to Coastal Carolina, even though he originally did enter in the transfer portal. That's a pretty big deal. You love to see it. But Coastal Carolina, if they're going to want to limit the offensive firepower that UCLA has on the other end, get that running game going. Get the running game going. Oh, and picking off some passes on defense, winning that turnover battle, wouldn't hurt them either. If you do those two things, good things are going to happen for the Chanticleers. Because last year, when Coastal Carolina actually did run for 150 yards or more, they were undefeated. They won 8-0. But they were 1-4 when they didn't. But I do want to keep in mind, this was mostly when Grayson McCall was hurt, because he is a dual threat quarterback. If you go back to 2021 and then in the COVID year, they only did that 2 times in the previous 2 years combined. So you want to talk about Coastal Carolina, talking about a sleeper team also to win the Sun Belt and see them return to being a team that win double-digit games once again. They could do that too. They certainly can do that as well. Now, other things. Coastal Carolina does have to do a better job of maintaining in the second half. That was one thing that did hurt them in those 4 losses. Coming out of the halftime locker room, they were not the best. They didn't have the best adjustments. Coastal Carolina was outscored by their opponents 57-112. So they were essentially doubled up in that regard. Now, like I said before, they do have a new head coach, Tim Beck. He's got an experienced quarterback too. So we'll see how Tim Beck does in terms of his ability to make halftime adjustments. I think that's one thing. That's really the biggest teller of third quarters is how well do you make adjustments at halftime, and then late third quarter and then into the fourth quarter is making adjustments to what the other team is adjusting to, right? So watch for that. But I also talked about UCLA's quarterback, Dante Moore, true freshman, but he's also really highly raved by UCLA's guys. 4-star player coming out. They do also have the Kent State transfer, Colin Schlee, who could see some time. It's going to be interesting to see what UCLA does with their quarterback situation. I'm intrigued by that. But what's the keys to UCLA to ensure their victory? They gotta be on the right side of the turnover margin. I think that's extraordinarily important. They were not a team that was great with the turnover margin, right? So we started the season 6-0. When they did that, the only time that they lost a turnover battle was when they went against Bowling Green in their opener. They were -1. They still ended up winning 55-17. So also note, they were also in the lost a turnover battle against Oregon. And then in that second half of the season, they also only won the turnover margin once. And it was a win over Cal. So winning the turnover margin is going to be important because Coastal Carolina is not the same level as Bowling Green. I think we would all agree to that. I think that makes a lot of sense personally. But yeah, so that's going to be important to see them being able to do that. Yeah, that's really, if they can handle business with the turnovers and then Dante Moore turns out to be the guy, then maybe this becomes a more legitimate threat to win the Pac-12 as well. I have him as a dark horse to win the Pac-12. I wish this game was at at Coastal Carolina's field, though. I'd love to see that teal blue field. I think it's a really nice football field. In terms of how I think it's gonna go, listen, it's not like UCLA under Chip Kelly has been this rock against Group of 5 programs, and this has been well documented. They should have lost to South Alabama last year. They lost to Fresno State in 2018 and 21, and as well as against Cincinnati in that time period, and against San Diego State too. Coastal Carolina might not be as good as the Bearcats teams in 2021, the team that made it to the college football playoff. I think it is more than dangerous to pull it off. When you have an experienced quarterback with a high-octane offense, anything is possible. Really, the thing for Coastal Carolina is, can they get the key stops? Because UCLA is going to move this ball down the field. I think there's no other way to go about it. However, at the same time, if they can be a bend but don't break defense, this could be the case where UCLA could be put on upset alert. So I'm leaning towards UCLA to win this game. But if Coastal Carolina covers, I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. Even though the power rating model has this being a darn near 30-point win. A lot of preseason data. It's down on the Coastal defense. But it will be an interesting game as well. A game that maybe not as many of us will watch because it's a 10:30 start time out on the West Coast. I'll be up for it, though. I'll be up to watching it. We ain't going to miss out on this at all.